How to prepare for a Gen future you can't predict. Recently, the CEO of a prominent bank phoned me to discuss the promise of generative AI. We initially worked through scenarios to improve fraud detection and customer service, but with the ongoing spate of recent announcements, it was clear he had grander ambitions in mind. Like many industries, banking has a workforce problem. There is a discrepancy between the demand for skilled personnel and a supply of workers who are willing to return to an office and play by pre-COVID rules. Generative AI, he thought, might be a silver bullet of sorts. It could create cost savings and efficiency through automations. But might these new tools also solve the talent shortage issue? To put in plainly, how soon could AI replace human workers? Our conversation, it showed many I've had since last November with executives across an array of business, including insurance, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, and even executives leading Hollywood studios, whose writers and actors are currently on strike. They all want to know how their companies can create more value using fewer humans resources. That's because last fall, ChatGPT, the chatbot developed by OpenAI, suddenly went viral, demonstrating the power of AI to generate its own emails, essays, recipes, finals, reports, articles, and ideas. Goldman Sachs estimates that within the decade, 300 million jobs will either be eliminated or largely diminished by generative AI. We are already starting to see turbulence job posting for prompt engineers, humans who ask systems like ChatGPT and generate content, are offering annual salaries of 300,000 or more. OpenAI's GPT 4 passed the uniform bar exam and hinted that in the near future we may not need lawyers for transactional work. Indeed, Walmart is prototyping a generative AI system unrelated to OpenAI to negotiate some of its vendors' contracts. 75% of contract lawyers and procurement officers on the other side say they now prefer negotiating with an AI over their flesh and blood counterparts. Google's Med PALM 2, which is a specialized model trained on medical knowledge, now answers medical exam problems at the expert level of a doctor. This summer, partners will start testing applications that can look at an X-ray and automatically write a mammography report without a human doctor involved. With the strange pace of development, it's no wonder that so many executives are coming to the same conclusion. Within just a few years, powerful AI systems will perform cognitive work at the same level or even above their human workforce, tempt by the possibilities of AI concerted about finding and retaining qualified workers, and humbled by recent market correction or missed analysis expectations. Business leaders envision a future of work without nearly as many people as today. From my perspective, this is a hug miscalculation. First, it's too early to predict the exact future of AI, especially given that generative AI is just one tiny era of a field with many interdependence, each in various stage of development. Exactly which jobs AI will eliminate, and when it's guesswork, it isn't enough for an AI system to perform a task. The output has to be proven trustworthy, integrated into existing works streams, and managed for compliance, risk, and regulatory issues. Second, in a period of rapid disruption brought by technology, leaders are focused too narrowly on intermediate gains, rather than how their value network will transform in future. As AI evolves, it will require entry segments of business to be reimagined in real time, but before we have a full sense of what the future will look like, remember the earliest days of the public internet and web browsers, which were viewed as entertainment. No, no one planned for the fundamental transformation but would ignite. It would have been impossible then to foretell how it would someday influence presidential elections or create the world's first trillion-dollar companies. To be sure, executives today must make decisions in the most complex operating environments. I've seen signs those early internet days. Leaders understandably concerned about missing out on the next wave of technology are unwittingly making risky bets on their company's futures. Here are the steps every leader should take to prepare for an uncertain world where generative AI and human workforce coexist but will evolve in ways that are unknown and unknowable. The first one is preparing for a future you can't predict. Here's the paradox: we need to think of the workforce as evolving with rather than being supplanted by generative AI. The workforce will need to evolve and workers will have to learn new skills iteratively are over a period of years. Leaders must adopt a new approach to maximize the potential of AI in their organizations, which requires tracking key developments in AI differently, using an interactive process to cultivate a ready workforce, and most importantly, creating evidence based future scenarios that challenge conventional thinking within the organization. First, temper expectations about what generative AI can and will do for your business. Historically, AI cycles through phases that involve breaking through sources of funding and fleeting moments of mainstream interest followed by missing expectation and funding clawbacks. In 1970, Marvin Minsky, an influential computer scientist and one of the founding parents of AI, told Life Magazine that artificial general intelligence and AI with cognitive abilities indistinguishable from a person was just 3 years away. Bear in mind that in the 70s, the computing power required for such an AI didn't yet exist. Supercomputers were mostly theoretical, so were personal computers. The data point 2200, and its processor eventually became the foundational architecture from what we came to know in PS. The grand ambition promised by Minsky and his colleagues never materialized, so funding and interest dried up. This what happened again in 1987, when again computer scientists and business made bold promise on a timeline for AI that was just never feasible. Second, evaluate what data your company is generating and how it will today and in the future be used by generative AI. Business data is invaluable because once a model has been trained, it can be costly and technically cumbersome to port those data over to another system. At the moment, emerging AI platforms are not easily interpretable, and that's by design. Generative AI platforms are evolving into walled gardens where the companies creating the technology control all sides of their ecosystems. The biggest AI companies are competition for market share and for the enormous amount of data they need to make their models most competitive by marketing their platforms to companies they want to log them and their data in. Third, when it comes to AI, leaders must shift their focus from the bottom line top line. This will seem counterintuitive as many view generative AI as a means to reduce operational cost. Today's smart chatbots will soon give way to multimodal systems, which are AIs cap- capable of solving different problems and accomplishing different goals at once. Imagine a property and casualty insurance company where every undergraduate is teamed up with an AI. Initially, the undergraduate might ask the AI to assess the risk associated with insuring a property. After preliminary analysis of the text, she might ask to refine results using the images from inspection reports or audio interviews with the prospective policy holder. She might go back and forth a few times using different data sources until an optimal quote is reset for both the insurance company and the customer. The next part is a framework for navigating the evolving AI workforce. Workforce change is an inevitable side effect of technological evolution, and leaders need a systemic way of seeing what the future of their organization will look like in the wake of generative AIs. Developments to that end. This simple framework will help leaders in any organization anticipate how and when their workforce will need to change in order to leverage AI. The goal isn't to make long range prediction or even to be ready for everything. It's to position organization to be ready for anything as AI continues to improve. This framework should be used to develop scenarios for the future of a business. It is designed to help you see risk and opportunity early enough for actions. Used regularly, this framework enables leaders to see the landscape more clearly, evaluate gaps within their organizations, and link emerging technology to existing strategy, positioning them to make decisions with confidence. Importantly, it asks leaders to think expansionally about AI, but but to act incrementally in response to new developments. While it won't predict a singular future for your company, no scenario can do that. It will prepare leaders to make decisions well ahead from their competitors. The single best thing organizations can do right now during this period of what feels like a soul crushing amount of change and uncertainty is to methodically plan for the future that requires knowing generative AI's limitations as well as its strengths and adopting a culture of continual evaluation and improvement. It also means getting past clever product demos to much more mundane, pragmatic conversations about the trajectory of development, how data are being used, and the practical ways in which companies can use emerging tools, resist the temptation to reduce your workforce, and instead use strategy for say to create a future where an AI is leveraged by highly skilled workforce and where human AI teams are more productive, creative and efficient working together than apart. En resumen, nos habla sobre cómo la inteligencia artificial está cambiando el mundo y qué miedos se tienen, ya que muchos trabajadores están perdiendo el trabajo porque las empresas pueden suplantarlos con esta inteligencia artificial y tener costos más bajos, ya que no tendrían que pagar un sueldo y todo esto. De hecho, lo he visto que ya hay muchas personas que se han visto afectadas, como por ejemplo los artistas em, que hacen dibujos en las computadoras y los venden. Ya tú puedes generar imágenes dependiendo de lo que tú le expliques a la inteligencia artificial y esto te dará una imagen y no tendrás que pagar nada, simplemente tener la imagen y listo. Entonces muchos artistas están perdiendo ese trabajo. También nos habla de cómo moderar la inteligencia artificial en nuestras empresas y cómo hacer que tanto la inteligencia artificial y los humanos trabajemos juntos y podamos lograr un buen desempeño sin tener tantas pérdidas en la parte humana al no tener tanto escasez de talento en el sentido de que la inteligencia artificial puede suplir todo esto. Entonces la idea es como trabajar en equipo, ya que obviamente aunque sea inteligencia artificial puede fallar en algunas cosas, si no se le tiene una, si no se le modera sus acciones puede cometer errores que puedan hacer pérdidas para la empresa. También nos habla de que es muy apresurado pensar que la inteligencia artificial va a acabar con todos los puestos de las personas, que trabajan, ya que como bien sabemos, también se pensó muchas cosas del Internet y hasta ahora mismo vemos que podemos convivir con él y no hay pérdidas en el desarrollo humano. Aunque eso sí, lo que sí es cierto y que yo pienso es que la inteligencia artificial sí va a suplir muchas cosas, ya que esto hace trabajos, o sea, mejor dicho, las empresas lo van a utilizar porque les va a dar cosas gratuitas sin tener que pagarle a otra persona porque lo haga un humano. Entonces, eso es lo malo y o sea, tienen que haber nuevas formas para dar empleo. Y por último, se hace mucho énfasis en la producción de la empresa frente a la inteligencia artificial, en la que no se debe dar todo en sí a la inteligencia artificial, ya que como dije antes, aunque la inteligencia artificial puede fallar, y muchas personas, bueno, muchas empresas pueden tener un pensamiento muy, digamos, o sea, se pueden emocionar mucho ya que esto les puede solucionar muchas cosas a un bajo costo o incluso gratuitamente. Pero el problema es que si no se hace moderación, no em, se revisa bien todo este proceso en el que se da con la inteligencia artificial, pueden cometer errores y esto lleva a pérdidas en su desarrollo tanto interno como externo y esto no favorece para nada a la empresa. Esto es todo por hoy, muchas gracias por su atención y espero que hayan entendido.